Every club.
Every day.
The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Brighton podcast. We are joined with a Leicester fan, Jake, for our crossover podcast. Jake, how are we feeling today?
Yeah, much better after our victory over West Ham. So much more positive. Excited to talk about the game at the weekend. Hoping another good performance and hopefully more points for us.
Yeah, an unexpected probably win, maybe, or maybe not an unexpected win. A rare win, potentially, for Leicester this season. Joe, you're also joining me to talk about how Leicester have done and also analysing how Brighton are doing while you're watching the game as we record. Against Fulham now, we are already 1-0 down, which is not the best of starts. We should already be 2-0 down, you said.
Yeah.
What's going wrong so far?
I feel like I'm at the ground on Soccer Saturday, mate. But I'm just in my room, mate. The game is not going very well at the moment. They've had an awful mistake from Verbruggen, and Iwobi went one-on-one, but Igor made a good recovery tackle. Currently it's not going well, but while I'm also trying to watch this, I'm trying to also look forward to Leicester on the weekend. So I'm a bit discombobulated right now. But, I'm all good myself. So we're all good.
And to keep the Gillette Soccer Saturday theme, back to me in the studio where we continue to analyse Leicester versus Brighton, who play on Sunday. And Jake, I want to ask you something because it came to a bit of a shock to those potentially outside of Leicester and those neutral fans, I guess, like me and Joe. The Steve Cooper sacking, that seemed to come a bit out of the blue, and B, he seemed to be doing a not bad job. Kept them outside of the relegation zone. What did the Leicester fans make of it?
General consensus was very happy. I was really relieved. I think it was more the feeling. I can understand from an outside perspective it being a surprise. I think it happened quite quickly in terms of performances really took a downturn in those few games before the Chelsea one, which was ultimately Cooper's last match in charge. And I can understand, people say we're outside the relegation zone, but in terms of points, I think the point I made on the podcast reacting was I think there was 3 points at the time that separated 19th and 15th or 16th. So it wouldn't have took much to swing, either way for whoever's involved at that time. Obviously, we've seen a bit of a shift with the last games this week. Who's played so far. There's been a bit of a shift. So, I wasn't really that surprised. I was relieved. So I think Ruud van Nisteroy and change was needed because the fans never really connected with Cooper, amongst lots of reasons. That was why he needed to go.
Yeah, I guess, was it the style of play that was the biggest problem? Was it a very boring style of play, or what was kind of your issue with it?
It was quite negative in terms of first halves were always quite shocking, to be honest. We never got going. There was always quite a negative setup. The Chelsea game probably epitomised that more than anything. We started with 4 at the back, 5 in the middle, with wingers deeper than the 3 in midfield. It was just hit the ball long to Vardy, and my thought was, you've had 2 weeks to prepare the team, and this is what you've come up with. I'm like, really? I mean, look, we saw Chelsea rip Southampton apart last night. Obviously, Southampton had 10 men mind, but like at no point did we try and get any sort of adventurous movement up the pitch to get out. It was just bank him, and I think it was one of the few times that I've watched Leicester and been a little bit embarrassed in terms of how we've set up, because I'm like, we need to at least have a go. And we had a go on Tuesday night against West Ham. Obviously, we ended up with a great result, but West Ham had lots of shots, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But we had a go, and we always looked like scoring. And I think most fans of most clubs, if you look like scoring, at least can accept other things not quite working out.
Yeah, Joe, I don't know how much you've watched of Leicester, but are they a team coming to where that we play this weekend that you're kind of worried about coming, or do you think it's a place where we could drop points, or how do you kind of see the game going?
So it's a little bit of I feel like on paper, if you were to take context out of it, I feel like, we probably should be going there and winning. But one, they've obviously got a new manager bounce, and if you look at it in terms of like okay, they've gone and they've beat West Ham quite convincingly, even though obviously, like you said, West Ham had a lot of chances. We have just come off got a pretty bad result against Southampton, obviously losing now as we speak. But the only thing that I say is like a positive is, and it's not a positive, it's in terms of football, it's not a positive because you want to see, is it Fatawu? Is that how you say his name?
Yeah.
You want to see players like that obviously shine in the Premier League, and Buonanotte, obviously we've loaned him to you and he's doing really well, but he's obviously not going to be playing. So they obviously have that sort of thing where it's like, Buonanotte, I imagine, is a massive creative outlet for you. And him not being there obviously takes away a lot from their sort of attack. But it's just whether we create enough chances, which by the sounds of things, we will have the chances, just whether we could put them away. Then I feel like we could come away with it. But you're going to be so up for it. And I feel like, especially if this ends the way that it's going at the moment, I feel like you're going to feel like we're up for the taking. So that is always something that you should be wary about. It's always sort of the mindset going into the game.
Yeah, I absolutely hate playing a game when the new team or the team that you're against has a new manager. That's actually a curse. It's the new manager bounce is a legitimate thing. They could play like absolute was for months. Get a new manager in. They could concede 8-0 week in, week out. Get a new manager in, and then they'll win against like you did with against West Ham. That's the biggest fear. Why did it have to be against us? Oh, and West Ham probably thinking the same.
Well, yeah.
Why did you have to get this new manager bounce against us coming up? I'm guessing the fans were happy in Leicester, or it was in Leicester.
Yeah.
When you beat them.
Well, yeah. Well, I think, we wanted to see a fast start, which we saw. Vardy scored after 2 minutes. So in terms of things we wanted to see, everything sort of got to, a fast start, looking like scoring lots of goals, creating good chances. Defensively, okay, we were quite open at points, and they did have a lot of chances, mind. And if anyone's had a chance to watch the game on the highlights, they would have saw that. However, on the flip side of that, there was so many blocks that we made either as a back four. Hermanson with some great saves, and it was sort of that determination mixed with, I think, a different tactical setup with the defence dropping a little bit deeper, but continuously pressing the ball, but that back four dropping deeper meant we got a lot of blocks in, which under Steve Cooper it would have ricocheted through, or they'd have had a free shot at goal. So for sure, in terms of determination and being a bit more structured, we saw that instantly, and it worked. West Ham missed some chances, but also we got a bit lucky. And it was a number of factors that meant that we ended up getting a massive positive result for us, and keeps us, I think, 4 points now ahead of the bottom three, which is great for us.
Yeah, and I think after this little ad break, we'll talk more about Ruud van Nistelrooy, his appointment, and his style of play, what you kind of expect to see, and then Joe with us will talk about how we think they could hurt us. So stick around. This podcast is part of the Global Sports Podcast Network, the only network bringing you exclusive daily news and views on your Premier League team, the Premier League, women's football, and fantasy football. A unique listening experience that puts fans first, bringing you the very latest breaking news from your team. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and make us your first listen every day. Global Sports Podcast Network. Every club, every day. Yeah, and we're back with the Daily Brighton and Leicester crossover. We will go into more depth about the West Ham performance, because that was obviously the latest game. That was Ruud van Nistelrooy's first game as well, so it's probably the only game fair enough to assess based on this upcoming week. And I'll cover some stats. So obviously you had less possession, you had less expected goals, but you still created, or XG was 1.7, still got 8 shots out, compared to their 31 though. What was what was your style of play, and I guess what do you see going forward as well?
The things I expected were the bits that I'd read before, and Van Nistelrooy only had basically a season at PSV, left just for the end of the season. Had four games of Man United, 3. 2 of them were against us, and they beat us twice. So I think he knew our weaknesses from that, which were quite key. The defence being one, but yeah, something I expected and we saw, which was we'll build up in a back 3. So. Vestergaard came back into the team. He's great with the ball at his feet, lacks a lot of pace, but he's a great build-up player from the back. Connor Cody also coming in. So we had those two with either in the first half, James Justin join him when we got the ball to make that back 3, or Victor Christensen more in the second half. So that was interesting that at half-time, actually, not only did he switch that, he also switched the midfield attacking 3. So Buonanotte, El Canus, and... I've gone blank now. Who else did we play? Casey McAteer. Yeah, of course. So he actually switched all of them around. So they all played a different position in the second half, which in terms of being proactive was fantastic. Steve Cooper, you often could have said, was too late with his subs or tactically tweaking things. Van Nistelrooy just did things really fast as soon as he saw it. There was no messing about. His substitutions were quick. Yes, again, elements that we wanted to see and elements I expected we did see. So that's what Brighton can expect on Sunday. We're going to have a back 3 when we have the ball. We will have the ball at the back for longer periods than under Steve Cooper, more like the style we saw under Enzo Maresca in the Championship, which if in truth the team's sort of set up to play, it's the bulk of the team we had from last year in that starting 11. We haven't had that many changes. And the players we have bought, obviously Buonanotte on loan, El Canus, are great technical players that actually fit into that style really well, and that's not an issue.
Yeah, I just looking there. I saw that you put, obviously, like you said, Connor Cody and Vestergaard in instead of Voutfas and Okoli. Do you reckon he'll go to that experience, the Premier League experience, to kind of see out games? Because against West Ham, it looks like you defended resolutely. They only scored in the 93rd minute. They obviously had 31 shots, but if you don't concede from the 31 shots and you are basically keeping a clean sheet up until the final kick of the game, it looks like he went back to that experience and just kind of tried seeing the game out that way.
I think it was a tactical. It could be an experience thing in terms of leadership. Connor Cody and Vestergaard are far better leaders than Okoli, who I think is probably still learning the language in truth and is a younger defender. Wout Faz, who's made a lot of mistakes. He came on in the game for Vestergaard after about an hour. Again, made mistakes coming on, and I think the fans have grown tired of the same mistakes, bringing the ball out from the back under no real pressure, and then bringing that pressure on himself when he could have played the ball. So partly that, but also from a tactical point of view, it made more sense. Vestergaard and Cody, or at least Vestergaard for sure, is our best ball-playing centre-back. Very underrated in that aspect. He has his flaws for sure, but in terms of what he brings you on the ball, he can play a good forwards passage, not just sidewards. Cody's okay at that. He's probably more that leadership style, in fairness, than someone like Faz or Okoli.
I've got to say, Joe, do you also look at the centre-backs of whoever they might be? So let's say Connor Cody, Vestergaard, and Voutfas if he does come on, or if he even does start against us. And do you sit there and think, or lick your lips a bit like I do? Because I think Voutfas is
a terrible haircut
par.
as well. Absolutely terrible haircut. It's just absolutely astoundingly poor haircut. They are lacking in the pace area. I'll tell you that for nothing. And I do think that they're sort of key, apart from obviously on the ball. If you look at defensively, I feel like obviously they'd have to, because of the lack of pace, they'd have to rely so much more on their positioning and things like that. If I was Herzler, I'd obviously be looking at sort of the pace that we have up front. If you take away Danny Welbeck, I mean, he's still probably faster than, which is probably the biggest worry, is he's still probably faster than those defenders.
Oh, definitely.
but if he can sort of be the focal point and be able to get some Matoma running off of him, whether it's Minte, Dingra, Rutter, whoever it is, and obviously João Pedro sort of pulling those strings as well, then obviously they will be in trouble but I also don't expect them to concede that amount of space in behind, because if they are they're not going to be pressing up 20, 30 yards away from their penalty box, you know what I mean? So I feel like it's going to be hard to potentially break them down. I imagine that a lot of West Ham shots were from outside the box because 31 shots is ludicrous. I can't imagine that they're all just in the box, just shooting willy-nilly.
It didn't feel like that outside the box. I'm going to be honest, there was a lot inside for sure. I haven't looked at it.
Oh
It was
my
a lot
goodness me.
inside.
I'm telling you, honestly.
I can't remember many outside, really.
Yeah, I'm not lying. I'm looking at the shot map. I'm looking at the shot map, and I think I can see about 12 that are outside the box. I don't know how you managed to keep a clean sheet.
12 from outside the box is still quite a lot. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
but that means 19 we're in.
Yeah,
we're going to ignore that, and I'm going to, because it backs up what I'm trying to say. So I'm going to. So essentially, like, I don't expect them to, and I know that this is true, that you're not going to try and concede that space in behind. Hence why it's obviously so important that Danny Welbeck can drag the centre backs out. And because James Justin's not a slouch, 100%. James Justin has got at least something in there. But if you're playing out from the back with the three, obviously when you're back, are you in a back four when you're defending?
Yeah, back four with
Justin. I don't know who your left back is.
Christensen.
It was Christensen.
So I don't expect a lot of space to be. It would be for Christensen and for James Justin. They are going to have to be doing a lot of covering in those sort of areas and the clean up if the ball goes long and stuff like that. So I would be pace wise. I would be looking for it, but also we need to. Because they are good ball players, both of them. You need to press them when they have the ball, because otherwise they are just going to sort of be finding all sorts of areas that you don't want Vestergaard doing 80-yard diagonal pings across the pitch, to be honest with you. So.
To be fair, that's also, you raise a good point. Like, we have struggled this season against low blocks. So if you play a low block, that's where I actually think we could struggle. Like, I could see it be 0-0 if it's like a low block, because we couldn't beat Ipswich with a low block. Southampton kind of played their style of play, but didn't at the same time, not to the extent we've known them to. And they were actually quite happy to sit deep and just kind of hoof it long at times. Then Nottingham Forest, we struggled to really score again. We scored 2, but we didn't really create much more other than that. So it's the low block teams that we have struggled against this season, and that's where I actually fear. I don't know about you, Joe. That's where I fear us on the weekend.
So the low block is something that we do struggle, but I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, but João Pedro missed both of those. Well, he didn't miss Southampton, but the game against Ipswich, I certainly missed that game.
Yeah, he did. And against Nottingham Forest. So, like, he's the creative spark. So I feel like that, to be fair, it was a bad performance. The Southampton was very poor. But for them, one of the things I'm actually quite worried about is because of how high the line is. Does Jamie Vardy still run at 1,000 miles an hour off of 3 cans of Red Bull, or is that not a thing anymore?
His Red Bull. His Red Bull's still a thing. He ran in behind West Ham and scored. If you've seen the first goal,
yeah. So see that's going to be there.
We had him, McAteer, and El Canouse in the first half, all running behind, very direct. And we've got Patson Daka, who, off air, I slated a bit, but he's very quick and very direct.
He is very good,
in terms of those attributes, there is good ones. He just doesn't have many more. So, I think a high line we could possibly exploit.
Yeah, see, that's what I mean. So my biggest fear is the sort of that is why I'm sort of saying, like, somehow I'm making this all lead into one thing here, but so if you don't press the centre backs and they're going to be playing balls over the top, we will concede the space that you guys won't, because we want to squeeze the pitch, whereas they want to make the pitch compact when we're attacking. We're so much more happier to just try and win it as high as up as possible. But if we concede the space behind, especially if like Lewis Dunk's playing, if he peels off onto that sort of left inside channel and it's Joel Veltman and it's Lewis Dunk, or he goes onto the other side and it's Lewis Dunk, whatever. Joel Veltman's not keeping up with Jamie Vardy. Jamie Vardy could be 45 and he's not keeping up with Jamie Vardy. So, like, that's what I feel like the issue is, because I feel like maybe because Buonanotte is not there, who's someone who likes to get onto the ball and obviously create chances that way, the long ball is actually there, and the long ball is still very dangerous. Not the Sean Dyche long ball, but the long ball in behind into space is dangerous. The long ball up to the 6'9" striker is not a thing anymore. But the one to Jamie Vardy off 3 cans of Red Bull is what I'm looking for. Well, it's what I don't want to see, but that's what I'm expected to see. Do you know what I mean?
We will touch more on some, because obviously, you won't have Buonanotte because he will be cup tied, or it's not a cup, league tied.
It's still cup tied.
Still called cup tied?
Yeah,
all right. He'll be cup tied for the fixture on Sunday. So we'll be talking about some other players we should be looking out for and that you're potentially excited about, Jake.
Here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform. Zencastr came out the clear winner. With 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs, it's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencastr.
And we are back with a daily Brighton and Leicester crossover. So Jake, obviously Buonanotte, we'll touch on him first. How good, and enlighten our fans of who haven't watched much of Leicester, how good Buonanotte has been since he's been on loan to you.
Yeah, he's been absolutely fantastic. I mean, they say, that old line, don't fall in love with a lone player, but I think all Leicester fans, it's too late for that. There's a new chant about him. I think realistically, how I see him play for us at the end of this season, I can't see it. Like, he's brilliant. I can see why he's played for Argentina. I can't believe Brighton have loaned him out. I've got to be honest. Brighton have got some great players in there. You've just mentioned some good attacking threats, but I can't believe he can't get in there. But then I understand that he's going to come and play every minute for us because, especially the first sort of 5-6 games, he scored a lot of our goals or made assists. Like he basically was contributing to every goal we were getting. He's a massive has a massive impact on the build-up play, getting on the ball, taking it past players. He loves a nutmeg. He's going to be a big miss on Sunday. My hope is that moving on to another player, El Khanous, who we've signed, I think from Genk, Moroccan. He had a fantastic game against West Ham, best game he's had. Scored, obviously. I think he's really finding his feet, and I'm hoping he can sort of fill the shoes of Buonanotte. But to be honest, having both of them in the team are like having two aces in there that also, by the way, Buonanotte's work rate is fantastic. You usually have luxury players like that who don't work so hard. He is a fantastic worker, gets stuck in. Like, I can't chuck anything negative at him at all so far this season. So, Brighton are lucky to have him for sure.
Great news.
Yeah, I'm not like this was a big talking point when he first got loaned out to Leicester. I think a couple of I think we disagreed, but when don't we disagree? I can't remember who didn't want. Can't remember who didn't want him to be. I think it might have been Bless that didn't want him to be loaned out because he saw, obviously, like you say, a spot in him for the squad. I think I was very much on the side of, I would like to see him. I'm all for the loan move because this is great Premier League experience. This is an opportunity for him to prove himself and to see if he actually is worthy of staying in the Premier League and playing in the Premier League in coming seasons. And rather than him kind of rot on our bench, like kind of Evan Ferguson's doing a bit, it would be perfect for him to get the opportunity out there. Joe, where were you standing with the loan move?
Sorry, we almost scored. He needs to score. Adingra needs to score.
Tell us about it.
So Matoma's, they've worked it down the left. Matoma's pulled it back to Adingra, who literally only has to put it in 75% of the goal. And he's just decided to go straight at Bert Leno.
Oh.
Wait. No, never mind. Sorry. Anyway, back to Buonanotte.
Where were you with what did you think about the loan move at the time?
For me, it seemed a little bit weird because new manager come in. Buonanotte has already played in the Premier League like quite a bit anyway. So like he has some experience, obviously not a lot. I thought that this season Enciso would have a much more of an impact than he has had. He's literally can't get a sniff at all. So if Enciso can't get a sniff and his probably direct competitor for that role is Buonanotte, why is Buonanotte now out on loan shining and Enciso's playing for the 23s? So that doesn't really make sense. But the loan move itself makes sense, but like the reasoning behind it doesn't seem to be many reasons why. Like, unless he thought, okay, we're going to play him out wide, but then we bought like 4 wingers. That also doesn't make any sense because Kozio Dubry plays for Blackburn. He's played 5 times.
Yeah,
So that's not working. And then obviously Minte's been injured. It's also not really worked out for him much. So Rutter's been playing there. Now Dingra's playing there, but Dingra's barely played. So they actually now, as sort of everything's evolved during the season, there is a spot for him to play.
Yeah.
And he's actually outperforming almost every single one of those players.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I think he's outperformed Adingra, Minter.
Yeah. I would argue Rutter as well.
And I would throw, like, he's been on par, if not worse, than Rutter.
Yeah.
So he could easily, like, that's the only gutting thing. And I don't think, so I know, Jake, off air, you were talking about fears of him getting loaned or recalled. I don't think that's going to happen still because of the number of people we've got in those forward positions.
Yeah.
But I think it's preparing for the future. So when we sell again, which is probably inevitable with João Pedro, the way he's playing, he'll probably go somewhere in summer. I think he's then there to fill the João Pedro void next season potentially.
It makes a bit more sense.
That's my take.
It doesn't make sense because it gives me the feeling that he didn't rate him. But if he didn't rate him, then he's obviously high. So he needs to be obviously investigated for that. And then, but it just doesn't make sense because obviously we don't know, do we? We can come up with all these theories or whatever. I mean, I have just said that our own manager was high. That obviously isn't the case. But like you don't know what happens behind closed door. He could have had a terrible attitude, but then he's gone to Leicester and he's like, well, this is my chance now. So yeah, I'm gonna take it by the scruff of the neck, sort of thing.
I think though with Buonanotte, he's so young still. You're absolutely right. He's played a lot of games considering his age. He's obviously played some games for Argentina, but he is really young and actually getting minutes on the pitch matters far more than probably anything else.
100%.
And you've just named some really good players there, Minter and Dingra, Rutter, Pedro, all vying. Buonanotte is great because I think he's actually better off the right than he is in the middle for us, but he's brilliant in both mine. But he can play those 2 roles, but you've got 4 players there, and none of them are going to move on in January, you wouldn't have thought. Or you're going to look to move on. However, in the summer, Pedro, possibly might get a good offer for him, and Dingra. You never really know, obviously the market moves, but Buonanotte then has another year of, he's going to end up, if he plays the whole season for us, doesn't get injured, obviously, he will play 35. He'll play 35 games, 34, 35 games, because I think, obviously, he can't play 2 against Brighton, and he's missed like 1, I think, so far.
Yeah.
So he will play every game that he can play.
Yeah.
That's what we love to hear, though. We love to hear.
Yeah, that's it. That's the beauty of looking forward, and the beauty of having young players as well. There's actually another player that I am fearing in the Leicester squad. I don't know about you, Joe, but Hermansen in goal.
Why would I fear him? He's a goalkeeper. What's he going to do? He's start running with the ball in there.
I know
he's really good. I know he's really good. I understand he's really good, but I've never ever gone into any football game. I'm really scared about that goalkeeper.
Well, I'm fearing the goalkeeper because he's going to save about 17 shots that we have on target.
Yeah.
He has been world class.
Yeah, he's excellent. Chelsea bid for him this summer. Obviously, Enzo.
They bid for me, mate. Trust me.
Yeah. they bid for everyone, but no, he's fantastic. Like we've obviously been very blessed. We had Kasper Schmeichel for such a long time, and then we had that one season without a Danish goalkeeper. Well, we had Iversen, but he was our backup, so we still had a Danish keeper. We obviously got relegated, and then we bought Hermansen, another fantastic Danish goalkeeper who's going to fill the Schmeichel void for Denmark. And I hate to say it, another player I can't see playing for Leicester next year because he is he is brilliant. He's not just goalkeepers now, they have to be good with their feet, and that was the first thing we all noticed. Yeah, he's great with his feet, but we also very quickly worked out he's a fantastic goalkeeper in terms of the basics. His shot stopping's wonderful. He's made so many saves this season that I've stood up and applauded, and it's those sort of saves that
in the
keep
ground, I
being
hope, not at home.
well, both, mate, they've been that good.
Is it allowed? Just like, yes, come on.
Yeah, but they're the saves that, we haven't had someone, it's been years since I've done that, but this season I think I've done it 3 or 4 times in games I can think of at home because it's kept us in the match. It's won us the match, against Bournemouth or West Ham. So, yeah, he could be the difference maker. And you're quite right, he's a goalkeeper. So it says a lot that I'm saying that, but he is that good.
Yeah. There's also been...
fearful. Be fearful of the goalkeeper.
The thing is, as well, they're so good about that, is that this season, I would say, if you were to do a team of the year, I feel like loads of the positions pick themselves, but the goalkeeper is sort of one position where there hasn't really been many good ones. I think you could, off the top of your head, Raya, Onana somehow, I don't know what's happened there. Hermanson, obviously, and probably Kelleher.
Yeah.
So, and then Verbruggen, Verbruggen, you would say as well, he's just made a mistake. Kelleher last night, literally, he might have been high. He could potentially, because he's literally just left the ball, whatever's going on there. But I mean, yeah, it's good to see, and it would actually be a bit of a shame because why Chelsea are bidding for him, it doesn't make any sense because they've literally got 9 on the books, and even their youth goalkeepers are decent. So, like, that doesn't really make. And the goalkeeper that they use in the Premier League is the worst out of all 9 of them. So, I don't know, but I hope that. It's good to see. I like Leicester, I'll be honest. There's a lot of crossovers that come on here. I don't like them. not the people, but like the team. I don't like them. I like Leicester. It's vibes.
Is there anyone that you do fear then, Joe? Anyone? Because obviously Buonanotte cup tied, Bilal El Khanous, if you play Football Manager, he is the wonder kid to buy, and I have many a time. But yeah, is there anyone else that you fear, Joe? Because obviously Fatawi was another player that I was actually thinking, damn, but he's season-ending injury.
I'm not going to pick any of the defenders, so I'm going to have to run with Hermanson and Vardy, to be honest. The El Khanous, I've not seen him enough to be able to really comment. Saying that, he is probably going to kill us, isn't he? So, we said this when we played before we played Southampton. We were like, Tyler Diblin. Tyler Diblin killed us, mate.
We predicted it, to be fair.
We did predict it, which means Hermanson's going to make 30 saves and Vardy's going to score a hat-trick. So.
There we go. And on that bombshell, it's time to end. I sounded like Top Gear Jeremy Clarkson there. Before we do actually end, let's get
him as well, mate.
Score prediction.
Go on then, Jake, as you're the guest.
Often with these, I'm so negative because we've been so poor and negative all season. But this is the first time I'm feeling positive. I completely respect Brighton, who are having a really good season. It's going to be a tough game. As I always say, there's no way we're going to keep a clean sheet because we've kept 1 all season. That was lucky. So that's not going to happen. So it should. I think there'll be goals in the game. My instinct wants to sort of go with like a 2-2, 3-2. Someone nicks it. I think there'll be goals. I think I'm just going to go for a 2-2 and sort of go safe in that I think both teams will score goals. And I'm sort of hoping that obviously Hermanson has a great game. But yeah, I'm expecting us to score, but also to concede at some point.
Joe?
You know exactly what I'm going to say, mate. Jake's a man after my own heart here because his logic is almost exactly the same as mine. Apart from, this is essentially a running gag at this point. 3-2 Brighton. Shock horror. I've literally predicted it. I've predicted every time on the crossovers, and then my real prediction is on obviously the preview. But it actually has come in once. It's come in once against Tottenham out of all teams as well. It's come in. So yeah, 3-2. But this game is like, it has that sort of vibe on it. Do you know what I mean? So
I won't lie. I'm thinking a 1-0.
Oh my God.
1-0 Brighton.
All right, wrap up the pod.
We can finally beat Hermanson after he saved 75 shots. That's my hope.
Right. Okay.
Finally get one past him, and that's it. And on that note, it's time to end. Well, thank you very much, Jake, for joining us, and thank you once again, Joe. Lovely chatting to you both.
Right.
And
thank you.
We hope everyone at home has enjoyed. Go listen to the Daily Leicester podcast and follow all our socials, TikTok, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, and Instagram. And see you next time.
Every club. Every Global Sports Podcast Network.